Once again, everybody, we welcome you all into today's coverage of the GT Challenge race and Spec Miata race here for the Autobahn Member Racing Series. Once again, in the commentary booth, I'm Jordan Missick, followed by Ben Hasbrook alongside me here as we are getting ready and set for some action-packed racing.
Good afternoon, Autobahn members and race fans. Great to have you with us today on this beautiful sunny afternoon down here in Joliet, Illinois. Really looking forward to some good GT racing coming up here.
Yeah, it's going to be a very action-packed series as we have 5 classes between all of the whole field today. We got around 13 to 14 cars ranging from GT1 cars all the way down to GT5 cars here today as we get ready to get set. The field is right now completing its first of 2 pace laps here, so we expect to go green next time by as the field rolls alongside and rolls through the start-finish line to continue their first pace lap. But as we make our way through, let's go ahead and set our way through the grid here as we get ready for the start of this GT Challenge race. So we'll start off with row number 1 here. We got the 999 of Brandon Collins and the 91 of Dan Gove as they lead the GT1 field across the line. Row number 2 is going to be Tom Herb and Ron Roshinsky, and they will start off the GT2 field and GT3 fields as their pole sitters. Row number 3, will be Charles Margosian and Dick Ruck. Row number 4 will be Valdez, Gurlis, I think is the name, and then Sean V will be in the 8th spot. Row number 5, we got Scott Benning Jr. and Bob Norian rounding out the 10th spot. Row number 6, we have Mike Keck in the 691, Porsche 994, and Julie Riggin, who will be starting in the 12th spot. And then rounding out the field, we're going to have Jeff Shurry in the 13th spot, and then Brian Helmentoller rounding out the field in P14.
Also, now's a great opportunity to thank Lexus for our ultra white LC500, the official pace car of the Autobahn Member Racing Series. They're coming around, getting side by side, coming into these final corners here before the green flag.
Field is now doubled up as they roll through turn number 7. The pace car starts to accelerate away. The other thing is we want to point out is that Tadeusz Karlinskis, who was supposed to be qualified P2 today, has not made and joined the grid today. So, unfortunately, he was going to be missed on the grid as the field now rolls around the final corner of turn number 9. Beautiful side-by-side, 2x2 field as we now roll to the start-finish straight, looking for the green.
There.
Yeah, I mean, the back of the field is kind of starting to get a little out of shape, but nonetheless, the green flag is down and we are racing here on the Autobahn North Circuit. Brandon Collins jumps out to the early lead as Dan Gove will now slot into the 3rd spot. I believe that what looks like the BMW Ron Brzezinski who went up to the 2nd spot.
Brandon with a huge lead going into 3.
Dan Gove tries to look to the inside, not going to think better of it as he falls back in line as the rest of the field kind of slowly, methodically moves its way through. Brandon Collins, though, just running away with it as of now.
Tight racing back in that GT5 class as well.
Cars now start to kind of sort themselves out as it is coming to the end of the first lap here. So halfway through it, people are now
taking a look.
Looking to the inside now. Mike Hecht will think better of it. Tucks in back in line behind Bob Norian as they go through turn number 6. Dan Gove, as we look to the inside, will now move up to the 2nd spot, and he can now set his sights on going after Brandon Collins. Dick Ruck there in the 40 of the nice Trans Am car that he's been running lately. He's kind of now running in the 4th spot there. 5th spot, actually, but 2nd spot in the GT2 class.
Great shot as cars are shuffling around in the back here. Things spacing out a little bit. Some close action between Jeff Schur and Brian Helmentoller, though, all the way in the back.
So as the field comes by, we'll read through the order. Brandon Collins leads the way right now with the fastest lap of 103.7. Again, it's only lap 1. Dan Gove is now slotted into the 2nd spot there. Tom Herb runs 3rd. Ron Roshinsky in the 4th spot. Dick Ruck is 5th. And that is the top 5 as they run through. The field goes through turns 3, 4, and 5.
Things are really spacing out there. I know from driving around this week, track's a little bit greasy out there. So what do you think the drivers are thinking about while they're starting these first couple laps?
Yeah, I talked to some drivers beforehand, and, a lot of them were saying that the track has seemed a little bit more greasy and a little bit slower than what it has been in the past couple of days. Yesterday especially felt like a pretty good day in the morning, and then it kind of slowed up towards the afternoon part. So I would expect the same thing here, and a lot of drivers are saying that the pace of the track itself has gotten a little bit more slick as the day has gone on.
It's a great little battle here. It doesn't matter where you're running in the field. There's always kind of somebody to run with out there as we're watching the back of the field here.
Yes, this is Jeff Schurer right now. He's a GT4 car, as well as Brian Helmenthaler in the back of the GT5 field have kind of been battling towards the back of the pack here. But two guys who are like, and that's the thing about this GT Challenge field.
Inside.
Yeah, he does. They're going to go side by side down the straightaway here. Brian Helmenthaler now going to have the advantage of Jeff Schurer. He's going to be on the inside, but Brian Helmenthaler is going to give him the spot. As now Jeff Schurer's got the inside line going through turn number 1, sets up for turn number 2, takes a little bit of a defensive line there. Brian Helmenthaler now sets it up, looking for a switchback, comes back on the inside. Helmenthaler now side by side with Jeff Schurer as they head down to turn number 3. And give the spot to Helmenthaler as he comes through turn number 3. Yep. So Helmenthaler now going to look forward to try to go get Julie Riggin right in front of him. And like I was saying, you know, at the GT class, there's so many different cars and so many different classes that you can almost pick anybody out on the racetrack and be able to have a nice battle with. And even they're not even in your class as well, Ben. You know, they could be in a GT2 car, a GT3 car. You're roughly around the exact same speed as you're able to battle around the whole entire track together.
Exactly. That's why you see Charles Margosian and that Cayman there up against Sean in a BMW, still getting some tight racing action.
Field now kind of starting to spread out there as we can kind of see the intervals and the gaps between each other on their screen there. Brandon Collins has now opened it up to about a 1.8 second lead over Dan Gov. Tom Herb now slots in the third, like we mentioned. 3.3 seconds behind Brandon Collins, but leads the GT2 field. And then you got Ron Roshinsky, who leads the GT3 field, sitting there in 4th spot overall. Field is now kind of majority of the field, I would say, is now flowing through turns 6 and now going down the straightaway into turn 7. As we see there's the number 40 machine of Dick Ruck, and then number 24 of Valdez running into turn number 7 there. Everyone kind of just strung out there, kind of settling in a little bit there. Now just kind of starting to click off some laps here. Again, we got about a 20-lap race between the whole GT field, so 2 laps have been complete right now. Looking at about 18 laps to go here. Charles Margosian right now is kind of just trying to stretch his legs there in that Porsche. Trying to bring himself away from Scott Benning Sr. in that BMW.
It's all going to come down to consistency for these two guys. They got a long race to go still.
Yeah, a lot can happen here in the last couple laps here as we now have kind of started to get into the little bit of a groove here. So the field now going to just try to kind of patiently string itself together and try to put off and click off some consistent laps. Brandon Collins right now has also continued to extend its lead to now a 2.2 second gap. 101.7 has been his fastest lap. Rest of the field now just kind of running single file as now Brandon Collins has started to catch up to some back markers there as he's now put Brandon Helmenthaler a lap down. Jeff Schurer has already gone a lap down. Julie Riggin will be the next car in front of Brandon Collins for him to put a lap down.
Some pretty amazing pace that he's showing out there.
You know, the Brandon Collins in that Porsche GT3 Cup car, 991 GT3 Cup car, has been able to show off some pretty competitive lap times for what a Porsche has been able to do. You know, most of the prototype cars that we've seen around here have been able to generate lap times around the 1 minute to 101 range, and he's doing the exact same thing in a GT3 Cup car. So we know the car has been is powerful enough to be able to do it, but for one, he's been able to show with the pace that it has around this 1.46 mile track is pretty impressive.
Let alone the fact that he's actually running in both races today as well.
Yeah, he's one of the only guys who are going to be doing double duty here as he's after. You can see the tire marks that he left on the tracks there too. But yeah, Brandon Collins is definitely one of the guys who are going to be pulling double duty here today after this race. He's going to be hopping into his Spec Miata to go do that race and do battle for that. He actually qualifies P2 for that race right next to Matt Alexander, the eventual pole sitter.
But right now, he's got the track all to himself, it looks like.
He has turned this into a little bit of a lapping session, I would say. He's extended the gap tremendously over Dan Gov. I believe last time by, it's been now a 14.2 second lead, I want to see. As we can now work our way through turn number 2, we have some beautiful camera shots via our drone that is flying over the track here, and we are able to get these beautiful pictures of the whole, not only Audubon North Circuit, but all these cars as they fly past us underneath from turn 2 to turn 3.
BMW on BMW going into 7 here.
Different.
Tom Herb pulls it off.
Same manufacturers, but different types of cars. As we got Tom Herb now, who's kind of just been on his own, running in the 3rd spot there, leader in GT2 class, though. The next car behind him would be Dick Ruck, the other GT2 competitor that he's racing up against, but he's got himself probably a good, comfortable 14-second lead over Dick Ruck.
Running about 1 second a lap differences out there. So Tom's got that car dialed in.
Pace of that BMW is no match for what the Trans Am car was, what Dick Ruck's capable of. So Dick Ruck trying to be able to slap together, I would say, a couple of good laps here to see if he could try to reel in the BMW number 46 of Tom Herb as this race goes on. Again, we got plenty of more laps to go, 15 laps to go. We're a quarter away through this race. Plenty of time for him to come back.
Dan Gove clear of that lap traffic there.
Yeah, it's Julie Riggin that was right that you just put a lap down on. And Brian Helmenthaler, the next car right behind Julie Riggin. So Brian really trying as best he can to catch up to Julie Riggin. But now they're both out of class. Julie's in a GT4 car, whereas Brian Helmenthaler is running in a GT5. So kind of out of class position there, but still enough to go and compete each other on the racetrack. Dan Gove now making its way through turn number 1. Julie Riggin coming through turn number 2. As we've seen Tom Herb now coming up to the back of Julie Riggin to put her a lap down. There's Tom Herb right on the back of Julie now.
Tom up a little bit there.
Tom
clear going into 5.
Yep, goes to the inside, was able to get by of Julie Riggin, and now can set his sights to try to go chase down the Corvette of Dan Gove. Got about a straightaway's worth of a gap there from turn 7 to turn 6 here. But really what we talked about here, Ben, is the difference of elevation change. Some people really don't see the difference in elevation change when they look at this track because they think of it as just like a flat surface from inside the car. But here on this drone shot, we have a really good vantage point of what it's like from going from turn 6 to turn 7. As you can see, the downhill undulation of what turn 6 provides.
Yeah, and going uphill going into 7, that really helps your braking too. So, get double the opportunity for making a pass in there.
Yeah, it allows for more braking capability, so you're able to drive the car in a lot deeper, able to kind of, hit the brakes a little bit harder, and it kind of the uphill slows you down a lot. As we see Brandon Collins continue to move through some of this GT car field, he's now about halfway through the field of put a lap down. As we now see Matt Keck right here in this 994 Porsche moving his way through turn 8. I was talking with Matt before this race actually happened during lunch hour, and he was having a little hard time with the braking ability. He had Brandon Collins was working with him in his 994 Porsche yesterday to get some training in, but was just having a hard time keeping up with Brandon in terms of the entry corner speed to carry him through the middle of the corner and on the exit. So that's something that Mike has definitely been working on here lately, and we're seeing if it's been able to pay off in the race here today.
Looks like it is. I mean, he's being really consistent out there. You'd have to say that and give that to him.
Yeah, consistency is a huge factor here, and especially in the race car throughout these duration of races. You want to be able to stay consistent, being able to put all these lap times together, be able to click off laps very similar to what your fastest lap is like, and that's what shows the consistency out here and what some of these drivers and what we want to teach here at the Autobahn Country Club.
Very different lines between Bob and Mike coming out of turn 6 there. You can see that Bob was really staying over to the left, opening up that wheel a little bit more, so that might be where he's gaining some of that advantage.
And you start to see different types of personality and traits with some of these drivers, as well as with the different types of cars, that you could see different types of lines. So each car is very particular on its line. As we see from the flag stand, we are showing the cross flags, meaning that we are halfway through this race. But like I was saying, you get different types of variant lines. And as we look on this North Circuit, you get people to drive different types of lines going, let's say, through turn number 1 or through turn number 6. So different ways of people taking different lines comes into different outcomes and how they generate lap time around this place.
This might be a good time to kind of note the Autobahn Driver Academy while you're talking about that. We actually ran a pretty interesting program that you led up starting yesterday, actually running into today, that we were able to compare some video of different drivers out there. So Jeff Scher being one of those drivers that went through that program, testing out some new things today as he lets Dan go by there.
Yeah, the whole program was basically to get people ready for race day, and turning it, try to simulate kind of what it was on a race weekend basis like. So we had a whole day of practice yesterday. A bunch of guys were able to go on a track and just kind of in their A and B sessions be able to just do some laps, learn some new things. Then we brought them back into a classroom, went over some video, went over some data, and just kind of showed them, what's the different line you're taking, how are you taking it, and then compare them to other people that were in the class and kind of just showed them, this is how he's taking it and where he's maybe better than you or where you're better than him. So each and every person that was in the class were able to learn from each other. And now we kind of, we're able to kind of group up together today, go over what it's like from yesterday and how we can translate it into the qualifying into the race later today. So it's definitely paying off for some of these drivers as they've been able to take their talents and take their skills that they learned yesterday and applied it to today. So we can see right now Brandon Collins has kind of continued to make his way through the field. He's all the way up to the 5th spot of Dick Ruck right now, where they'll put him a lap down as the rest of this field is kind of now has kind of continued to mow its way through the field.
Looking at our sponsors here on the screen here, we have Highland Management Associates, Eurosport Racing, and CXI Trucking, sponsors of the GT Series.
Yeah, big, huge sponsorship, and thanks to them for being able to put on the sponsorship for this racing. We wouldn't be able to do this without them and all their efforts that they've been able to do. So it's a much appreciated effort for them to take the time and the efforts to sponsor the racing series that we have here in the GT Challenge.
A lot of different opportunities for sponsorship out here as well. So you can sponsor different race series. There's corners you can sponsor. So if you do have any questions, definitely reach out. We got some different opportunities for you. Signature Production Group, another sponsor. They help us with all of our filming and production on the back end of our live streams.
So big thanks to all of our sponsors that have been able to be part of the Audubon Member Racing Series here at the Audubon Country Club as we continue on with the racing and the aspect of what's happening on the racetrack. It looks like Brian Helmentoller a little bit in that 28 Miata is starting to close the gap a little bit on Julie Riggin there as she enters now turn number 7.
Really good shot of all the action there. Everybody's spread out a little bit. Kind of a nice Sunday afternoon drive out here down at Audubon Country Club today.
And the North Track is small enough to where we can almost get the whole entire track within this shot. But you can just see how these cars are just kind of moving around this racetrack, how they're spread out. We got 2 cars now going on the front straightaway, 3 cars now going on the front straightaway, 2 in turn 8, 2 into turn 7. You can see cars all around this whole racetrack.
And with the track this tight, I mean, these drivers, they might be spread out, but they're not really getting a lot of time to relax out there. You get right up to that next set of corners real quick on North Track.
Yeah, the straightaways aren't the longest here on the Audubon North Track, so those corners do come up very quick, and they are very tight in some cases. So a very fast flowing track that we have here at the Audubon Country Club for the North Track. As now we can see almost the whole entire track in the shot. Beautiful shot here as now we got some cars going in the North 6 here. That's Charlie Margosian in that Porsche that was right there. Brian Helmentoller getting passed right by, I believe that was Scott Benning Jr., I believe? Or Senior, that's his. Nope, excuse me, sorry. That was the 23 of Sean V that we had going through the corner there in that BMW. There's Brian Helmentoller right now in that Miata.
So another thing to note here is with GT racing, so we do have all these different cars out there, and really it's based on power to weight ratio. There's some other factors that go into it, but we got those 5 different classes out there, GT1 being the top class out there, going all the way down to GT5. Transmission makes a difference, so whether you have paddle shifters, whether it's a manual, what type of tires you're running, if you have aero on the car. So it's really set up to actually be, fair racing between all these different classes. So you always got someone to run against.
And that's actually the battle for the lead here in GT4 as we got right now. It's Charlie Margosian having the lead. Sean V trying to stay as best as he can to stay with Charles Margosian as Sean V was able to get by Julie Riggin there in turn 3 to 4. He needed to get that move done in order to be able to stay with Charles Margosian, as Dan Gov's now going to come play a little bit of a factor here as he's got a much higher horsepower car, so he should be able to kind of get by the BMW Sean V as V's now going to go a little defensive here. Dan Gov kind of picks his line, gets around him, stays on the driving line.
And unfortunately there, Sean might have lost a little bit of time or coming around there, so.
He did lose some time, but here's the thing, Dan Gov's got to go up against Charles Margosian now and get by him. Fortunately enough for Charles is that Dan's going to get by him here on the straightaway, but will the braking capacity of Dan Gov slow him down right here as is Charles going to close right onto the back of Dan Gov into the corner. Gives him a little bit of enough room for Dan to kind of pick his way through. Dan's now going to kind of go on his way and kind of run off into the sunset here. But we got Charles Margosian and Sean V continuing the battle.
Yeah, and it looked like coming into turn 2 there that, Charles might have, been a little bit focused on Dan Gove a little bit much there and lost some of that time in the braking zone.
A little bit of target fixation there, I'd say, on my part. So we now have 6 laps to go, coming to 5 to go this time by. As we continue to move on, Sean V is still trying to lure in Charles Margosian as the laps start to click off. He has been 0.2 of a lap quicker the fastest time by. Sean was able to run a 107.7, whereas Charles is running a 107.9, so 0.2 faster the last time by. Next car of a GT4 class as well has been Scott Benning Sr. Right there in that number 59 red, white, and blue BMW. Has to get by the number 90 of Julie Riggin right there. That's a lap down car before they get up to the back bumper or get into the same line of path of what Charles Margosian and Sean V would be running.
Scott Benning having a really impressing, as he goes for the pass here down into 2.
Yeah, I thought about it right there.
Having a really good season, though. So he moved up from Spec Miata to GT racing this year, showing a lot of improvement on pace and really getting comfortable in that car. It's good to see him making some moves, making some passes out there.
Now we saw Scott Benning Sr. get by Julie Riggin there. We also saw Tom Herb right there get into the picture. Goes by Brian Helmenthaler there. Puts him another lap down.
As Brandon Collins comes around again to lap those back markers one more time.
Yeah, Brandon Collins has been running a 102 lap pace, I'd say, for the past couple of laps right now, but he's been up in the 101s as his fastest lap. So Brandon has been putting a hurting on this field so far, has been really strong, having a lot of fun driving that Porsche. Going around the final corner there at Scott Benning Sr. Now is going to try to put his head down, get some laps in to go after Sean V and Charles Margosian right there, as they're now within a second of each other, as Tom Herb is now coming on the scene. Here comes Brandon Collins as well. Tom Herb going to look to the inside, thinks better of it, tucks back in line. Brandon Collins is going to come show up on the scene. And again, these are 2 lap cars all on the different laps here. So you got so you have Brandon Collins here behind them all, about 2 laps ahead of Tom Herb, or a lap ahead of Tom Herb, but both of these cars are 2 laps ahead of Scott Benning Sr.
Very experienced drivers, though. You can see them just waiting for that right moment to kind of pick and choose when they're going to make this pass here.
Yeah, lots of speed difference between all 3 cars here, but I think we all kind of picked the time to go is now. Tom Herb going to look to the inside of Scott Benning Sr. He'll let him go. Now it's going to be Brandon Collins' turn. Collins is going to get on the gas, look to the left-hand side, goes flowing by Scott Benning Sr., and then he'll look to the front straightaway to potentially get Tom Herb. Tom Herb now going to take his normal racing line. Brandon Collins follows in line as we come to the front straightaway. Look for Brandon Collins to get on the gas, open the hands up, and let the car fly as he's going to now go off the corner. He's going to take it to the right-hand side, go by Tom Herb, and be on his merry way.
It's one of the great things about club racing is you really get to know the drivers around you, what level of experience they're at, and the level of trust that you have with all the different people that you're racing around out there. Nice and smooth. Couple laps to go. We only have 2 laps to go here right now.
The gap between Charles V and Charles Margosian and Sean V, I should say, has now kind of opened up just above a second, as right now Charles Margosian still holding off Sean V for the GT4 lead, and as we come now to 2 to go. Brandon Collins now coming through turn number 6, heading towards turn number 7. We'll probably see the white flag this time by, as he has run a near perfect race all the way from start to finish here. Through the final 2 corners, through turn 8 and turn 9, he'll come onto the straightaway, look to the starter stand. We'll see the white flag up in the air as 1 lap to go for Brandon Collins here at the Autobahn.
We're going to jump back to the GT4 race going on here.
It's actually right in front of where Brandon Collins is, so he has a front row seat to this battle between Charles Margosian and Sean V as they come through turn number 3 and turn number 4. Charles Margosian trying to just drive as best as he can with Sean V right behind him. Now it's going to be interesting. Does Brandon Collins wait and let these guys go by to give him one more lap, or does he spoil the party, get in front of them, and end the race a lap early?
Yeah, they really closed up that gap between them. So if he's going to make a move, this is the time to do it.
It's either you got to get both of them, or you can't. You just let them go. Let them race it out. Don't just get one or the other. As here now, Sean V has closed up the gap substantially to Charles Margosian here.
And it looks like they're going to get one more lap in this battle here. So.
Potentially, we'll see. Brandon's pretty quick down the front straightaway. Will he play nice? Will he give it to them? As they come out of the final corner, Charles Margosian leads the way over Sean V. They come to the white flag now. Brandon Collins will look to his left. He will receive the checkered flag. He'll let him race. Brandon Collins flashing the lights. He wins the GT Challenge from GT1.
Still racing out there with these two, though.
Yeah, now they got the white flag, so now the race is on. Charles Margosian, the lead car right now in that blue and white Porsche, leading the way from Sean V as they enter turn number 3.
Really got 2 or 3 more passing opportunities here. So we get one more coming up into turn 6 here as we come around turn 4.
The gap is closed. He is there.
5, and we got a white flag out there. So we do have a slower moving vehicle, it looks like, in front. Is that going to play into anything?
Oh, it's a stop vehicle.
Wow.
We had
vehicle out on track.
Bob Norian stopped right on the driving line at the exit of turn number 5, but we keep on racing as the field now heads through turn number 6, heading towards turn number 7. Charles Margosian continues to lead. Sean V right in the tire tracks as they enter turn 7. He looks to the inside, trying to fill the mirrors up. Not going to do it as Charles Margosian holds onto it.
Here.
Penultimate corner. Final time as they come through turn number 9. Charles Margosian gets on the gas, lets the Porsche ride, and he's going to do his best to hold off Sean V as they come to the line to get the checkered flag and win in GT4. So Charles Margosian is able to hold off Sean V to take the victory in GT4 as a stranded Bob Norian just sits on the exit of turn number 5.
Long race out there. You got to wonder if it was gas related or what happened to Bob out there.
Yeah, a very unfortunate circumstance. So what happened to Bob there? Unfortunately, it happens right on the final lap too, out of all of this happening.
Mike Keck taking advantage of that, though. So you have Mike Keck as the leader of the GT5 class out there.
So Mike Keck able to come home as the GT5 winner as we'll go through the official results here. Brandon Collins, as we said, comes home with the GT1 victory. Tom Herb comes away with GT2 class win. Ron Roshinsky comes away with GT3. Charlie Margosian, as we saw that epic battle with him and Sean V in GT4, and Mike Keck able to take away the GT5 win, slipping it underneath Bob Norian here on the last lap.